So I'm not a pack rat. If I'm not using something, I get rid of it, whether it's in my garage, whether it's in my attic, or whether it's in here. It doesn't really matter. If it goes without being used, I historically get rid of it. Now, there have been a few times I've been burned on that over my years, but ultimately that's acceptable collateral damage considering how much stuff I've gotten rid of, over those same amount of years. So ultimately, it's a process that works for me. However, there are some products where you kind of get on the fence, and this is one of them. Because this may change and may evolve, and should I just be patient a little bit longer, or should I just go ahead and sell it and use that money to buy a piece of gear that I will use in my studio all the time? That's kind of where I'm at right now, and that's what I've got to figure out. So what is this piece of gear? Well, quite honestly, you probably guessed it by the thumbnail. It's my Avid S1. I don't use it that much. I hardly ever touch it. When I do, it's almost always for panning or ultimately soloing and mute or record enabled. That's where I use it the most. I really don't use the faders because I do all my automation within my digital audio workstation. And so it's just kind of been sitting there unused. Now, I got my dock here. I love my dock. This thing is freaking phenomenal, as is my Soft Tube Console 1 Mark III. Also phenomenal. These work hand in hand together. They fit like a glove, and it's really a great workflow. But ultimately within, whether the S1 or the dock, that whole series, you've got Yukon with it, and that's what the iPads are for. And so you can do a lot of customizable things on the iPad. And so the dock is way more customizable than the S1. So this kind of does it all. Gives me one fader with solo, mute, record, all the automation, stuff like that you would get on the S1. But it's one channel at a time. But I can go into here and I can choose any particular track I want and go between them. And bam, that's easy. I can also adjust faders, solo, mute, and record on up to 20 tracks on the Console 1. And so that also is an alternative way of working. And so for me, these two I absolutely love and would not even consider, but that S1 that's behind me, ultimately, I'm just not using it. I'm just not using it. So I'm not sure what to do at this point, because I have used control surfaces in the past extremely extensively, including my automation with faders and things like that. And so I've used a lot of different control surfaces over the years. So, I go back, I had a 48 channel D command, I had a 48 channel Pro control. That thing was like a runway. It's so freaking long. And then I went from that, I went to a 24 channel D command that's actually setting out my living room. It's being shipped out today because I sold it. And so I've also used a Command 8, a DigiDesign Command 8. I've used a Mackie control when it first came out. I've used, what else? I've used SSL UF8s. I've used obviously these. And so I've used a lot of control surfaces over the years. And so I've used them all to their extent for the most part, with the exception of today, because certain things, let's face it, a control surface is basically a glorified keyboard shortcut or a mouse key, or, using the mouse. That's really all it is, but it does make things so much more efficient and so much more fluid, and you can do multiple things at the same time for many different things, which you really can't do with a mouse and a keyboard shortcut. So, but Yukon is so customizable, you can do literally 1,000 or even more. I don't even know if it has a limitation on how many soft keys, which basically are just a touch key on the iPad that will ultimately take you to whatever channel you want to go to. It can also ultimately do any keyboard shortcuts or keyboard commands or anything like that you can do within Pro Tools. You can assign to a soft key in there, and bam, it's just really fluid. It's awesome, and controlling plugins on the command or on the dock is absolutely great too. Now, I don't, if I'm using the Console 1, of course, whatever plugins I'm using within that, ultimately I'm doing within this control surface, but you can't put every single plugin on it, whereas I can with this. So I love that. Again, you can control plugins with the S1, but it is so much more user-friendly and quicker to do that on the dock. So that's just my opinion. And keep in mind, that's for my workflow. So ultimately, the decision is going to have to be made to sell it and buy something else. Because at the end of the day, what's the worst case scenario? If I sell it and a year from now I realize I kind of think I want that back, I just buy it again. And so I don't see myself doing that, but yet the decision's not been made. do me a favor. I've got a relationship with Sweetwater. And so what that means is I'm part of their affiliate program. And so what that does is it helps me earn some extra money on the side, because you don't make very much money off views in YouTube. And sometimes I want to be able to supplement that so I can continue to bring you guys new content over and over and over. There are a lot of things in this studio here that are related to video that have to be upgraded on a regular basis and a lot invested. And so I'd like to be able to recoup my money for doing that while still providing great content for you guys, or at least try to, okay? So down below, you're going to see one particular link that you can just copy that into your browser, and you can buy anything that you want at Sweetwater, from anywhere from a guitar pick, something inexpensive, up to that $10,000 plus guitar or a piece of hardware or console, whatever it is going to be. The sky's the limit, and I get a tiny percent. I don't make a ton of money off of it, but does provide a little supplemental income. And then down below that, there are links to pieces of gear that I either have here in the studio, or I've reviewed, I've owned and used in the past, or things along that line that I had a positive experience with, and they're recommended buys in that particular price range. You want to spend a little bit more? Well, you got to look at it a little bit differently. But if you're looking in that price range and one of those falls in it, you know that that's a piece of gear that I give my two thumbs up on. And so you can use those as well, and it'll take you directly to that item. So I'd really appreciate it if you'd use those links. Again, it really helps me out. I work hard for you guys, and that's one little small way, if you're going to buy something, that you can help me out. Do me a favor, leave me some comments down below. If you think I'm crazy for contemplating selling it and tell me just to be patient, okay, that's fine. Let me hear what you have to say. If you're on the opposite end of it, and you use your control surfaces to their max potential, but then that's your workflow, then let us know that. Let us know what you find so compelling about it and what it does for you exactly. And if you're on the complete opposite side of that, I'm kind of in the middle, but if you're on the complete opposite side of that and you have a control surface and you barely use its features, you barely have touched the surface and you've had it for some time, but you love the way it looks in your studio, well, if you're going for the bling, then go for the bling. I've certainly been there in the past. I'm past that at this point now. But ultimately, if you're going for that, then go for that. But ultimately, share your experiences with that. All right. And if you're you've used control surfaces in the past and you said, I don't use those things, I got rid of them, I'm more fluid with just a mouse and my keyboard shortcuts, then tell us that. Okay. But let's just kind of have a discussion about it down below. But until next time, every one of you have a really great day. Bye-bye.